Hey guys, how you doing? So this is a short video on how to negotiate in Brazil. We're covering some interesting topics ranging from cultural differences you might find in a Latin country such as Brazil, up until the negotiation itself, the meetings, and how to conduct yourself. So this video is not meant to be exhaustive, so please, if you have any questions or doubts, let me know or any other Brazilians at Bocconi. And to start your trip to Brazil, just relax, sit back, get your caipirinhas going, and let's have fun together. Alright, so we'll start by covering cultural aspects of Brazil, but a quick note before we get into that. Brazil's capital is not Buenos Aires, and Brazilian language is not Spanish, it's Portuguese. This might be silly, but many of the intermediaries that go into Brazil have wrong conceptions, and that might just start your negotiation on the wrong foot. So having said that, if we were to plot Brazil in a stereotype between warm cultures and cold cultures, evidently Brazil would fall right into the right spectrum as a warm culture. And what does that mean vis-a-vis a negotiation? That means that Brazil has a very relationship-based culture. And that has some implications. So first of them is that developing trust is essential in Brazil. And when we talk about trust, we don't only talk about professional trust, the individual also has to be trusted. So that's why we say in Brazil you do business with people and not so much with companies. And that might be an interesting fact for people coming from other cultures. Finally, and this is something also very important in Brazil, meetings tend not to be only professional. They tend to be personal, and personal topics during meetings are very important. So be ready to talk about your family maybe, or your interests in sports, or politics, or religion. We're going to get a little bit more in details about which topics should you cover or not right following. Alright, so a little bit more detail on what to talk about and what not to talk about. Before I go into that, let me just say, of course, that this is depending on the person you're negotiating with. A few of the things I mentioned here might not be what the person wants to talk about. Of course, and a few of the things I'm not mentioning here might be topic of discussion, so I'll leave it to your discretion on what topics to approach. But generally talking, as I said, Brazilian is a very relationship-based culture, and you have to expect to talk about things you might not be used to during meetings. That includes talking about your family. Maybe your negotiation is blocked and then you take 5 minutes for a coffee break, and then you can mention your kids or your trip to Brazil, how is it going. Talk about sports, what you like doing, what you don't like doing is always welcome, and it's a good safe choice as well if you don't know the topics you can mention to the other person, and any other interesting topics to you. Brazilians are very open to conversate in any topic. Some of the other topics might not be very well or very well welcome during a discussion. Politics is something very divisive in Brazil. You have people a lot to the right, people are a lot to the left. You might risk getting into a trap if you go into that topic. Religion in the same way. And of course, please don't mention the last World Cup and the game against Germany, or even the Argentinian player Maradona, who is the closest thing to demon we have in Brazil. So just a little fun topics here, but at the end of the day, do talk about personal topics, and of course, choose them wisely depending on who you're talking to. Alright, now a few things on the negotiation itself. And first of them, it might sound silly as well, but in Brazil, meetings tend to get delayed. This is both a cultural and a structural problem in Brazil. You can imagine with the superpopulated cities and lack of infrastructure, people tend to get late. So whether if you're late or if your counterparty is late, know that anything up until 30 minutes of delay is fine in Brazil. And this professor might be the reason Brazilians get so late to class. Now, another thing you should consider in terms of timing is the time it takes to make decisions in Brazil, which is also a part of being a very relationship-driven culture and of people just wanting to see and validate things. So everything takes a lot of time in Brazil. We also say our bureaucracy is very, very slow. So don't be worried if things take a little bit more time than usually take in your culture. This is also normal in Brazil. Now, two things more on the emotional side of negotiations. First of them is take things lightly. Brazilians love to joke around and just to make fun of everything. It's very cultural, and it can be really fun if you get into it. But don't take things seriously if someone makes a joke with you. It's quite normal. But final, and I think most important here, is that we have a cultural bias in Brazil to not like to say no to things. So this is important in negotiations because sometimes your counterparty will be telling you that he wants more time to think about things, or he wants to consult with other people, and actually he wanted to tell you no. It's just not culturally accepted. So beware of those hidden agendas in Brazil. They tend to exist. And in that case, assess whether or not that's a really no, or if the person really needs to do those things he's saying. Some final considerations now on the topic of negotiations in Brazil. First of them is that Brazilians take a lot of time for lunches, anything between 1 or 2, even 3 hours sometimes on a relaxed day are fine. And that's a really good opportunity for negotiating. So if you really want to know where a Brazilian is at 12 a.m., he is going to be having lunch. It's quite easy to find and quite interesting for negotiating opportunities as well. Second thing is that between Christmas or New Year and Carnival, which is mid-February in Brazil, a lot of people are on vacations, and general productivity, even for people who work in Brazil, is quite low. And beware of that. Since this is a relationship culture, imagine if your counterparty is on vacation, then you have to negotiate with someone else. Since people are so important in Brazil, the new negotiator might not just really be into negotiating with you. Beware of those things. And final, and one very important thing as well, is that Brazilian legal system and Brazilian tax system is one of the most complex in the world. Most companies that operate in Brazil don't even know how taxes work fully in Brazil, and that's very, very complex. So if you're going to negotiate and close deals in Brazil, mind of using local tax, local accountants, and local lawyers for your deal. Guys, that was the video. Hope you enjoyed it. Again, feel free to contact me or any other Brazilian at Bocconi if you want more information. Hope you guys liked it. Ciao!